Yeah, that's me right there, bro. Yeah, I supported you the first couple of times you came across it. Anytime I see you, I'm gonna make sure I do that, man. And I appreciate you for coming through with the sisters, man, with the goddess, them, man, and building with them, man. That's powerful because sometimes we get to a statue to where we can't bring ourselves back down, even though these goddesses is on the same level as us or bigger than us. We feel like they not in the level of us, and there's some people out here that don't feel like they should come and kick it with these goddesses. They feel, and that's that. Man, I appreciate you. I'll just tell you like that. You, Top Cats, and the other brothers that's them out there, man, that's doing these things, Master Chief and the BCU, that's doing these things, man. Keep on doing what you do, man. Just don't forget about us. But I'm gonna let Copper Draco go, and then I ain't going nowhere. Rod, we're gonna build, man. I'm gonna send something through the Cash App. Maybe that can help you stay for a little while longer.
I don't do nothing for money. When I leave, I was gonna leave anyway, no matter how much money was involved.
I'm gonna pay you for your time. How about that? You know what
I mean? Well, look, I appreciate the support in any form it comes. The energy is exchanged, whether it's just the love, a salute, and a Cash App is the least of my worries. I mean, I appreciate it. I accept it with gratitude so it can return to you with gratitude in a bigger sum, but I don't do nothing for money. I do this for the people. Because my mama told me as long as you do something for money, somebody can buy your soul. So I can't do it for the money, but I can accept the donations for those who have the gratitude.
Papa Draco, go ahead. You was next, man.
Is my mic still tripping? Hey, Ron. Yeah, you a different type of nigga, man. I wanted to ask you, whatever happened to the first Sergeant Dobie? Like, whatever happened to all those videos, man?
I don't know. That was one of the channels that used to share my video.
Man, hey, you was slaying them. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how I came across you, was First Sergeant Dobie, and yeah, that was overkill. But I wanted to ask you though. They say the Moors. I mean, I hear a lot of Moors say you can't be two things at once. You can't be a blood and a Crip. You can't be a Moor and a Mason. But I want to ask how you feel about the Moors, right?
Can you mute up? I'm sorry, Copper Draco. No offense. It's just there's an echo.
Look, you got two groups of Moors. The term Moor is a catch term. It was to group the nappy-haired organic people in with the nappy-head exiles from Europe. The George Washington Challenge said that in 200 years that we won't know what side of the water we from. The winner is the one who can not only answer what side of the water he from, but show you where the challenge was, who issued the challenge, under what pretense, where did this come from? This is all conjure work done in Masonic lodges. And this is why you can't be a Moor and a Mason, but all of the Masons is Moors, right? Under the banner of war. They grouped in the ones with the contract is grouped in with the ones that have no contract. The ones that have no contract is the original people of the land that the government classify as the outlaw tribes, the non-treaty tribes. Bounties was literally put on our head by the United States government as they made their way west across our land against our will. We was basically being socially raped by the corporation that was masquerading as our government, right? So, my man taking me somewhere. So, all these different things has been used to move us from our position. And it was something I wanted to say earlier about the Africans populating the world. All of the people with the nappy hair, not the same organic genetic stock. And when you see these people come over, they came as Huguenots and conquistadors under the French and under the Spanish. And they came in under the English out of the royal families as the white man to carry out the white man's burden to convert everybody to Christianity under the discovery doctrine of the Pope, right? This was all part of the conflict between the tribes. So they packed us like sardines as if we weren't people and classified us as Moors. The ones who came from Europe job was to disrupt the ones from the land from figuring out that this is not Northwest Africa. They were supposed to convince us that this is Northwest Africa, aka Al Maghrib, where the exiles of Europe was sent when they got kicked out of Europe, right? But the the irony of it is when they came over here, we knew where they came from and how they got here, right? And these was the ones we've been fighting the whole time. And they've been using pale faces to block us out of institutions. The answer for pale faces blocking us out of institutions is overrun institutions with friendly pale faces. So what do America do? They invite all of Europe's pale faces over here. We only want the sorcerers. We only want the witches and the warlocks to fight this spiritual war that they brought on us. So they brought us Celtic sciences, right? Coming from the tribes of the Orisha land that they call Ireland now, right? So the dirty Moors is the ones who's trying to usurp us. They are Moorish Jews. They are Canaan land Moors. But the ones who know who we are is trying to assert jurisdictional authority in the land of the Americas by the blood and the right of the tribes to cancel all of the contracts they had with the Moors. By canceling the contract, now we have sole jurisdiction of our organic homeland, as is shown in the Indigenous Rights Act of the United Nations and the Indigenous Rights Act of the United States that ties to the continuity of government between the U.S. government and tribal leadership under the FEMA program, right? So them was the ones we was at war with. And now the war over with and they butt sore. That's what I think about it.
Can I expand on your question really quick, Copper Draco? I just wanted to ask, since he brought up Masons, is there such thing as a clean Mason and dirty Masons, or would you say all the Masons are dirty?
So you got contracted Masons and non-contracted Masons. The non-contracted Masons is the ones that walk the land and they call operative Masons. The contracted Masons is under the European royal families and they are called Freemasons. Free and accepted rights of the Scottish Rite and free and accepted rights of the York Rite. They contracted to never reveal a secret. And the secret is the context, content of the war, because the chief that has to educate himself out of the condition has to be kept in the dark by the brotherhood. And they got to constantly beat him around off a 2-ball cane while he figure out who he is on the land. So he's the non-contracted mason, the black bone, the stone the builders rejected, and he's fighting in this conflict with the contracted masons whose job is to keep him blind. But the operative masons is to offer up knowledge freely without request for compensation because it's already paid for if your brother have it and you are your brother's keeper. So this is the ancient rites of passage in the royal families of the temple priests that's been expanded to operate in the society as it governs how the society run, and the different ones of the bloodline go through the operative put it back together phase, restore your memory phase, and reclaim the land phase. Right. So you get the good masons are the ones who's not contracted, because they are trying to share knowledge and raise each other up until they raise one up that's so skilled among them that he can solve the problem. So those are the differences in the masons as well as the Shriners, because you got contracted Shriners that's under the threat of death with the sword on their fez. And then you had a non-contracted Shriners who wears nothing on the fez, and the only concern is the children. Right? So that's how you know the difference, because they following a lodge function purpose, because the Shriners is supposed to be under the jurisdiction of the patron saint of the children.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So their whole mission is do what you can to take care of the children. So this is why you got Shriners hospitals everywhere. And the shrine used to host the circus before it became ridiculously expensive to go, because you were supposed to expose your children to the what they call them not anomalies, to the oddities of the world, to give them an alternate paradigm of perception. Right? So you got the ones that's non-contracted, and all of the ones contracted is the dirt players. Them the ones that we can't stand, because all of the ones contracted are the ones that we say sold they sold.
Hey, I got you.
You ever been a Mason or a Shriner? Right. You ever been a Mason or a Shriner?
No.
Oh, okay.
But I know all they shit.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody who went to church was a Mason. They just didn't take the rights to become a formal Mason, but you're underneath Masonic teachings.
You mean you just did?
Anybody, any church, I don't care who it is, you're up underneath Masonic or Jewish teachings. Point blank. You agree with that? You agree with that, OG? Right?
Look, the church is a Roman mass control mechanism. The purpose of the church is to divorce you from your cultural power source and marry you to the power source of your invading army. The Masonic Lodge, you might be a Templar, but a lot of Masons use the cover of the church in order to conceal their wealth. And this is why you associate Masons with the church, because they use the 501c3 status. Well, before that, they never had to report their income until the advent of taxes and filling out forms for taxes, the Rothschild creation, right? So you have a lot of the ones that was operative in the church in the AME, but you had a lot of the ones that was contracted was in the Catholic Church and in the basic Protestant church.
Well, we know the AME is pretty much Catholicism. The AME came out of the Methodists. You
Right,
know what I
but
mean?
we were supposed to be in the AME. Listen, in the AME church, we were supposed to use the religion of Christianity to conceal the network that we needed to communicate the tribes across the land. This is why the Bible Belt was a belt of black churches originally, which were actually tribal communication systems under the cloak of the church called the American Methodist Episcopal Church.
Correct.
And what happened is after Martin Luther King March on Washington, everybody's paradigm shifted from the doctrine of the original church, and the elders died off and got murdered. And this is how they lost the fact that they was covering or holding tribal secrets under the cloak of Christianity, the same as Santeria do it with Catholicism in the islands.
Correctly. And the AME is not the founding colonizers, y'all. Like brother just said, the AME was built. The AME is the one, and these are American, like he said, these are American Aborigines, American Indians, or whatever you want to call them. These are American people. Yes, at this time you had some people coming from Africa, but they wasn't no slaves. They wasn't no slaves. All right. So this whole narrative was to take them back to Africa. But everybody in the AME church say, no, ain't none of that. We ain't going back there. We ain't never been there. So I think right there, at that point right there, with your boy Cuffy and Richard Allen, who was a treasurer of the Masonic Temple before he became the pastor, the first founder of the AME Church, Richard Allen, and we got Allen University here in South Carolina too. Every pastor of the AME Church goes to one of these colleges. You have to go to the AME College or HBCU, also called. So yeah, man. Do you think that's what caused the church to start going and start being looked at in a different way when Cuffy and Cuffy trying to carry on that Garveyism stuff or trying to take people back to Africa, but they didn't want to go? Do you think this is where it caused the separation and caused the bad look of the black church?
No. First of all, Garvey back to Africa was not a literal expression. If you go into his works, he's telling the people over here to form a brotherhood with the people over there, because the people that was invading over here was also invading over there. In my enemy of my enemy, my friend.
That was before the funding of the GINDJAB, though. That was the old Garvey. That was the Garvey that was dealing with God and all them boys there, right? Correct.
Just listen. So he write about forming a confraternity, which is a brotherhood of a global scale. When they say con, they mean around the world, in reference to the confraternity, right? And they was using the Liberia movement to usurp the Garvey movement as a back to Africa movement by ship. But he was trying to establish trade and commerce with the tribes of America and the tribes of Africa without these settlers being in the middle of it. Build for ourselves, do for ourselves. Right? So when Garvey get usurped, Garvey get exiled based on a collaboration of a group of niggas that decided that Garvey was a problem. They wrote about it in the paper of the day that Garvey was getting too popular among the people and that his ideas may take hold and we start doing for self. We start doing business with our own people and making our own global trade networks that bypass the system. So when they get rid of Garvey and exile him, all of the attention is shifting to W.E.B. Du Bois in the socio-political arena, but in the spiritual underbelly, you had Noble Drew Ali was building on what Garvey was being undermined from. He was building at the same time as Garvey, and this is what you call in the military strategy, it's called a collateral attack. That's when you use two different means of attacking the enemy, knowing that one of y'all gonna end up dead. Never did you expect to be exiled and then don't get murdered. But they was all prepared to die. The understanding of the modern Pan-African